Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here, and today is another episode of our jewelry repurposing. And I think we're up to part 6 now. I think it's part 6, maybe it's part 7. It'll be in the description below. Also, I haven't linked all of the videos in this video or in the other videos. So far I just have part 1, because if you are coming to part 5, 6, or 7, you really need to go back to the beginning and watch part 1 before you can watch all of these. So I will include now a playlist called Jewelry on my descriptions. So you can go right to part 1, but you can also go to the jewelry playlist and then make sure you save it in your favorites or however they offer you to save it. And then this way you can go and look at them at your leisure and keep up to date. And so I think there are maybe a couple of other videos there. I'm not sure. I did put that video on how to test for gold and silver jewelry. And there's going to be lots of mishmash jewelry things in there for the future. So in our beginning of the series, we worked with the charm wannabes, and I think I'm done now. I'm going to show you those. We're just going to do a quick recap. So we worked with using a paper as bases. We've worked with fabric as bases. Yeah, I went back and made the second one of this butterfly. I think this is going to be an embellishment. I don't think I'm going to use it as a charm, but it'll stay in here anyway, and I'll see how I feel as we go along. And so then we also did the spiral backs on all of these pieces, or not all of them, some of them. And yeah, fabric, and then just showing you different little bits and pieces in here. And all of these we are going to work on even further to make them into beautiful charm dangles. And then in this box, this is my pride this time around, is these pieces that I made with the die cut. It's a great little, this is a great little piece, and there's lots of opportunities here. It's a very intricate die cut. I had to put 3 layers of black cardstock and then glue my finishing layer on the top of it. And if you go back to one of the other videos, you will see how I did that and then how I glued them together. But these are all very hard now. It's almost like it's like a pressed board, like a wood feel to it. So I'm really pleased with how these turned out. So we will be enhancing these and decorating them even further. Whether we do it today, probably not. But we will slowly work on all of these. Now this is the one that was the earring, and I just cut it off a little bit. And I have glued it down, and for the most part, it's on here pretty sturdy. It's not going anywhere. But there are 2 little holes here through the cardstock that I'm going to stitch and loop a few times with a needle and thread just to hold that, just to make sure it stays on there nicely. But this is, again, one of my favorite pieces. I love the black with the brass look to it, the antique gold. So I will be playing on that as well. Now, then I also showed you bottle caps and how to flatten them and how to use them in your art. And so this one, I have added the jump ring on, and I glued in that glitter base underneath there with this on top. There's still room for decorating and some other ideas that I want to play on. Some of these are going to be a little bit intense to show you, so I'm going to probably save a lot of these ones for later on down the road while we play with other stuff. This was a fun one, another bottle cap. This was a button, and I finished breaking off the shank on the back of the button. And the paper underneath here is just a piece of steampunk style paper. I hope you can see it. And it just gives it that steampunk feel. So because there's this little thing on the button, I have some gears, small little metal gears that I might use on here to enhance it, and then do some dangling from it as well. Now, some of these might, this has got a jump ring in it already. I did put some of the jump rings in with you, and I can go back and make another hole at the bottom here, or several holes, and dangle from this. or I can make this the dangle of whatever it is I want to make. So there are some options, and I do have a couple of ideas that I'd like to try today, I think. So when I was talking about bottle caps, one of the things that I had talked about, and Nancy called me on it, not called, she didn't phone me, but she asked me about it, was I said to go to the parking lots of your local watering hole establishment and look for rusty bottle caps. And this is the kind of stuff that I look for. And you'd be surprised at how many of these you'll find flattened in the parking lot. I can't tell you how many times I find these. And my girlfriends would laugh at me. We used to go to this one bar for lunch while we were all working. And after lunch, we'd be going back to our car, and I'd be picking up all the rusty bottle caps off the ground because I've always done this kind of art. They would just laugh at me and saying, like, why are you picking all these bottle caps? So just to give you an idea, I'm going to show you today. Now, these ones here, I did flatten again in my Sizzix machine. And it all depends on how much you're willing to test your Sizzix machine to do these things. And I say that because not everybody's prepared to take the chance that you could, possibly break your machine. But if you start with the lower platform levels on your Sizzix, and I'm saying this for people who have a Sizzix who know what I'm talking about. If you start with the lower platforms first and just start to get it flattened, and then go to the next level and the next level until you get it this thin, that is the best thing, because the real beer caps and pop bottle caps or whatever they have these caps on, they're a little bit sturdier than the ones that we get for the beer making supplies, because they're a softer metal, I guess. So these are a little bit harder on your arm to push them through. So I recommend that you start at the lowest level first, even lower than embossing, and then work your way up to flattening them a couple of times to get them really flat like this. The other option, of course, is to put them in the vise. Now, they don't look like much right now. They look like dead bottle caps, right? But I love playing with this stuff and repurposing it. Now, this one I haven't flattened, so I would leave it for a little bit longer. I hope I've been in frame all this time. I would leave it for another day, and I will flatten it. But this one's pretty flat. I think I could work with that one. I love the, I don't know what that is on the back. Is it Vienna beer? I don't know. Something like that. So I'm just going to show you really quickly some things I would do with these. And I will put these into the other pile. So I think I had shown you where I just take my 1-inch circle punch, and I hope it will work with these. I've got this pretty floral card. Maybe I don't want to use that one. Maybe this one would work. I think this one would work. I'm going to cut some of these little flowers out if I can reach them. I may have to move this over. Oh no, look at that. It's going to reach. So I'm just going to punch that out. Now this one's a little bit big. Maybe I should use my 3/4 punch. That might be better. Okay, so let's try again and cut another one out. Okay, and maybe this with the daisy here. And I just glue them in with some, I'm going to use hot glue. I've got the hot glue gun on. And I'm going to just take my ink and ink up the edges a little bit, tiny bit here. And then a little bit of glue. Oh, that's hot through the paper. And then pick one of these and stick it into the bottle cap. So this just frames it really nicely. And it just looks very vintagey, and you can even further build on it by adding a little piece of lace or a little flower or something. But they are so fun to turn into charms. So I'm going to do another one here. Now, these aren't subject to a lot of stress, so just using the hot glue gun with the paper is plenty to hold it in place. I'm just going to glue that. I think I'm going to glue it this way. And already it looks like a really cute little vintage charm. So I've got my crocodile, and I probably should use my pokey tool. Maybe I'll use that instead, but it might be a little bit harder to do. Okay, and just pushing it through so that it makes a big enough hole. You can't see the hole, but the hole is there and it is big enough. Now I'm going to go from the back side and just do the same thing on the other side. And this just makes the hole big enough for doing a jump ring. So I can have something dangling from there. And then I'm going to put another one at the top here, again using the pokey tool. You can use a hammer and a small nail, like like a carpenter tack. Or, if you have a metal push pin and a hammer, you can use that. Maybe you have a little tiny drill bit. Maybe you have a geometry set that has that big metal pokey thing. That'll work as well. And it takes a little bit of going back and forth with the tool, but you can actually make a hole in here. Okay, so I'm going from both ends with the pokey tool, and I know you can't see it, and I will eventually turn this into a very vintage looking charm. We're going to add some old ugly pearls to it, and maybe some brown metal beads, and just play with this so you can see already how cute this is going to be. The two of them here, and I will continue to play with these and show you the finished results. Now this one is a little bit big for here, but it's certainly a good size for a regular bottle cap. And I think I still have one here in the pile. Oh, I have another flattened one here that I'll use. So I will use this one and glue this into there as well. So these will be additional pieces that I will work on after and then show you the results as we go along. So the next thing that Nancy, because Nancy likes to challenge me in all kinds of things. But I have an answer for all this stuff. She said she was not fond of some of her pieces because they were just a little too shiny gold. And, that's the fun part about working with this stuff is it's always fun to do something to things to make them work for you. So to give you a couple of examples, I've got these pieces, and yes, I agree, Nancy, they are pretty shiny gold. So I'm just going to take one of them, and I will keep the other one the way it is because this one has the spiral on the back, and this one has the pull tab from a drink can on the back. But I'm going to take this one, and we're going to make it less shiny. And I also have this leaf that's pretty shiny as well. It's a brooch. I had taken it out of the pile, I think, when we were sorting the jewelry at the beginning. This was one of the ones in the pile, and I had taken it out of the pile because it is a brooch. It is workable, so I will just probably pin it or stitch it onto a cover when I'm doing something. But when it's this shiny gold, it's not really appealing. This is so 70s looking, 70s 80s looking that more 80s, right? That to me, it's not appealing either. So I certainly understand what you're saying, Nancy. So there is a solution. And there's a number of solutions. But the one I'm going to show you today is just doing a little bit of painting. Now, I grabbed 3 bottles of paint here, and I don't know what kind of condition they're in. Hopefully, they're in good condition. Now, it will take a few minutes for this to, I'll have to let it dry, the one coat, and then we will go back and do some other stuff to it. So I'm just going to squirt a little bit of this, maybe. Oh, it's pretty clogged up in there. I haven't used some of my paints for a long time. Well, I don't really need very much. Okay, it's coming. So I'm just using a little bit of this rusty brown color. And just taking my brush, probably should have mixed that a little bit better. I'm going to try to avoid the pearl. Yeah, I'm going to, well, we'll see how it paints up. And I'm just going to just brush this all over, and I'm not doing a perfect job. So it looks like I can salvage the pearl. If not, the other alternative would be to pop the pearl out and then glue it back in afterwards. And I'm just going to paint it up a little bit. Now you can paint any color you like, but this is what I'm using here today. So I'm just going to hold on to this a little bit with this brooch end. So any color you like to work with. I'm just creating kind of a coppery looking patina. I mean, I could have used a metal copper paint, but this was just what I grabbed. And, you know, if you've got a rust color or a brown color or, you know, even a dark red will give you the same kind of effect. In this case, I'm also saving this stone because it's pretty nice. So I'm going to leave those to dry. Hopefully we can come back to these and finish them after. And yeah, they don't look real great right now, but they'll get better, I promise. So then the next thing I wanted to do was to show you some of the things that we're going to need, because we're not going to get very much done today. A couple of little things, that's about it. But yeah, I have wire in every color in the 20 gauge. That's what I use for doing a lot of my work. So I have it in the copper, silver, gold, and then kind of a shiny silver if I wanted to use that as well. That's what we use for making the spirals. I have very small beads to match each of the colors. So this is in the antique gold. I don't have antique gold wire. I have to pick some up. I'm out of it right now. I have beads in a shiny gold. I have some little seed beads in silver. It's whatever I have. I think there's some copper beads here too. Yeah, just so these beads, and there are a variety of sizes, anywhere from 2 millimeter to about a 3. That's about a 3 millimeter bead. And the idea is these are beads that I use as stoppers. If I'm doing some beading, I use them to kind of start out on the wires and then build with other beads from there. But it all depends on what you're doing. So some of the other things, and I've talked about these before, is eye pins. But I make my own eye pins. It's just that I happen to have some, but I don't usually use them or buy them. I usually just make them, but I might have bought some jewelry supplies from somebody. So what it's got is a little loop at the end. And then you would feed your beads or whatever it is you want to feed on here, and then cut your wire short enough to make a loop on the other end. Well, I do that right off the roll. You saw me do it last week or in my last video, and I will do it over and over again. But, you know, if you're just doing this a little bit and you don't want to invest in too much product, you know, you can buy small packages of, I think, you know, maybe there's 30 or 50 in a package for a very reasonable price. So that's the eye pin, something I use a lot of. And then there's also a head pin. Now the head pin looks like a little nail or like a straight pin, although it's not sharp at the end, and it's got a little head on it, a little flat head. So if you, again, if this is going to be the end of your dangle, that's where you would use a head pin, because that's kind of the last thing, and then it's finished with this flat edge. Where you would use an eye pin is maybe you want to feed those beads onto something. I should have said that right at the beginning, right? Maybe you want to feed those beads onto here, and then you've got a little eye at the end here to still further dangle something from it, like a little spiral or another little charm, or even something like this where you add this to the bottom instead of at the top. But in this case, I've got a hole at both ends, so I want to take advantage of doing both, whether I put a jump ring on here to attach it to something, and then attach this to, with another jump ring using an eye pin, and then, or a head pin that's filled with beads. So these are things that I will explain more as we go along. But head pins and eye pins, you can easily find these in your local craft store, wherever they sell jewelry supplies. Your Michaels, your Hobby Lobby in the States, and you can also buy them online in your favorite online places. But do check your prices. They should be very, very inexpensive, and ideally you should be able to buy them in small quantities if you're just starting out. So I have that, and then I have jump rings. So I have those in a variety of colors. I don't think I brought them all to the table here. I'm not quite that organized, and I don't know that I'll need all this today. We'll do something in silver and gold if that has to be. But I have eye pin or jump rings. And then I also have some bulb pins, because some things you're going to want to attach to your journals and to your pages with bulb pins. So I have a few of these. I have a whole jar actually up on the top. And then of course different types of chain. And this was a necklace, and I just said, okay, this necklace comes with some fun beads right on it, and they already have a loop at both ends. They already have jump rings at both ends if I need those. So we're going to probably play with this one right off the hop. And then there's all this lovely chain. Now, to me, this in itself could be a tassel if we added some more chain on here, because just the 2 strands is not quite enough. But it's a little bit long, so we could also cut it shorter and make it into a thicker tassel that way. So we might play with these today, or this one today. And then I have some silver, just some plain silver chain. This you can buy at your, again, at your local craft stores. This was a necklace, and it has so many fun bits and pieces on here that, there's a combination of chains. I see there's a knot in this one. I'll have to undo that. And there's some fun loops and different things that you can make into like extenders, like this little piece here. So always look at your jewelry with the idea that, if you're going to repurpose the jewelry, that you can take things like this apart and repurpose for other things. I'm going to put these beads back in the bag because they're going to annoy me. And again, I have, this is a gold chain necklace. Now this has got double chains on here. So there's some different ways that we can use that as well. Just regular chain that you would buy again at your local craft store. They sell them in, 2 or 3 yards, I think, on a card that you can buy. If you're really getting into this, you can buy it by the spool. But why? Right? This stuff is so readily available, and just start looking at your local thrift shops and garage sales. You will be amazed at the stuff you will find now that you're looking at it from a different point of view. So yeah, lots of different chains, and that's just a basic set to get us started. So I just want to now review the pieces that I'm going to get this out of the way, and review the pieces that we had stuck in this bucket for the purpose of jewelry making. Now this came afterwards. This was a necklace that I bought, and some of you have just drooled over this. It is a schmozzle mess, and so I'm not going to worry about it until we're actually going to use it. But it comes with a variety of large beads and seed beads, pony beads. There's also some metal chain on here that is individually linked. This is one of my favorite chains to work with because there's so many possibilities with this. And then I think this earring was in the box from the get-go. I can't remember. And then Nikki is all she's known as Nikki the dog online. Oops. She had sent me in Happy Mail, I guess this bag had a hole in it. A bunch, yeah, it does have a hole in it. A bunch of these fun paper clips. These are awesome pieces to use for making dangles and jewelry. So we're going to get to play with those. And then there was this bracelet, and I said we'll use these as individual links to play with. There's this big blobby necklace, which could be fun. I'm going to put this one aside. I think I'd like to play with that one first. You know, things that we can attach from here to here, so there's possibilities there. This was a little bag of gold, or not brass, antique gold fairy charms. If you can see that. They're just tiny little charms. And here is a little necklace or bracelet. Can't remember. I think it's a necklace. And it's got some antique leaves and some rusty colored stones and a couple other beads on here. I'm going to leave that out too. I see something coming together here. And then I have this red earring, which is fun in itself. Yeah, it is just a schmozzle of stuff. This is a very rusty looking chain, very dark color. I like that with all of that stuff that's going on. And it's just, this was another fun piece. Maybe I should leave that one out too. I think I had several of those in this container. So the whole idea is I will continue to work on this container until it's done. Done. So we're going to start with those different types of things there. Oh, I like this too. Oh, it's got green. It's green. So I'm going to save that for another day. Maybe these fairies. I'm not sure. So this is the container that we're working out of. There's a lot of stuff in here, including these paper clips from Nikki. I need to put them in a better container, I think. But there is one in this sort of this coppery color. So maybe I'll try to take that one out. And play with that as well. Oh, sure. Just because I want to get in this container now, I can't. In this bag. Okay, so there's a couple of antique gold ones. So I'm gonna take these ones out of there, and we'll save the copper one for another day. But I'm doing this online with you, and it's going to be up to you to tell me if you've had enough. And please don't hesitate to do that, because otherwise I can go for weeks with this one bucket. I'm sure of it. But I will continue to work on this one with you so that you can see it actually get used up. This I'm going to put back in here. We're not going to work with the teal today, but we will revisit that in a later time. And let's just have a look here. I want to just see if these are getting dry yet. Oh, still a little bit wet, so I'm going to wait on that. Okay. So I've got this necklace, and I've got this chain. And there's no real, every piece is different. Every idea is different. So it's going to be one of those things that, you know, I can show you and show you, but the next time around it's going to be something completely different again. I have this little brass piece. I've got these. I've got this necklace that I like. And what have we got in our bucket that we can work with so far? Really nothing in this rust color, right? Oh, I could work with this bottle cap. This might be a fun one. Okay, so we've got this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with some different ideas to see what we come up with. Because this is kind of steampunky looking, I think maybe what would be fun to start off with is this ugly chain. And maybe we would glue some of this around the edge of the bottle cap, because we want to make it look a little bit. I was going to get gears, but they're on the other side of the room right now. So if I glue some of this chain down, for starters. Now, when I want to take apart chain, I don't even bother to try and open it up. I just add one extra loop to however long I think I need it. And we can cut it down shorter afterwards as well. Yeah, it's probably a little bit longer. Okay, so that'll go around there nicely. So wherever I want my chain to be, whatever length I want it to be, I add one extra loop, and then I just take my wire cutters and I cut that loop. And the reason I do it that way is you can try to open these up and, you know, take it off, but you're going to find more often than not, you will never be able to line up those two pieces again to match. And it just takes that much longer to do that. So in wrapping this chain around here, it's already coming along nicely. That I can glue this down. I think I'm going to glue it this way because I did make it one loop short. And then probably coming this way, it won't be one loop short. No, it's going to fit this way. Okay, so I just have to pull it a little bit tighter. So this just gives it a little bit more interest. It still shows the paper in the background. I've got these beads here, and they might be fun to play with. Now, I hadn't originally planned that this was going to be a dangle, so I'm not going to put anything further on here. I'm going to play on it from this point of view, from up here. So I really like these glass beads and maybe these wooden beads here, if you can see that a little bit. So the only thing I'm going to do right now is, eventually they're all going to come off anyway, is I'm just going to cut this. It's just a plastic, or it might be a metal thread. And I'm just going to get this out of the way because I've already chosen what I want. And so I'm going to go up to this length here, if that makes sense. So I can put all of these beads on one copper wire and make my own loop at one end, and then feed them all on, make a loop, and then make a loop at the other end if I want. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to use a couple of eye pins just to show you to break up the length. And it just gives you a little bit more movement in your piece. Otherwise, if this was all on one length, it would be very rigid, and then you'd only have this one bottle cap piece that would be dangling. Got to watch my time here. So that is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put these on two lengths. So I think I will go with putting these together on one length and then putting the wooden beads on a second length. And because it's in these coppery colors, I'm going to use the copper eye pins. Now, normally I would make them myself, but for this one, I'm going to just do the one. Actually, that's quite tight there. That's doable. Oh, that's a head pin. Sorry, grab the wrong one. Eye pin. This one has both in the same package. So this bead should be fine that it's not going to come off the loop. If it were going to come off the loop, then I would start out with one of those little small beads in the copper color to first hold everything in place, and then I would start to add my beads. But in this case, it is fine. I don't have to worry that it's going to come off. So I'm going to just feed on the rest of these beads that I have. And at this point, I can see. Now I'm just gonna hold it like this. I hope you'll be able to see. I only want 1/4 of an inch anyway, but the very first thing I do is taking my flat nose pliers. I will bend this down so that the beads cannot come off. And then I would snip it down to about 1/4 of an inch. Now that's a little bit big, so I'm going, it's more like 3/8 of an inch, I guess. So I'm just going to snip a little piece off. And if you saw how big that was, I can't even find it on here. Here we go. Yeah, I just snipped a tiny, tiny little piece off. So you can see that the beads are all on here. They're not going anywhere. And you can see I've made this a little bit shorter. And then taking my round nose pliers, I'm going to turn it and make it into a loop. Now, once you make it into the basic loop, I like to go right up into the bead hole by twisting it right into the bead hole. There are methods where you can leave the extra wire on and wrap it around, but it's a little bit more intensive a progress. And I think for the sake of this video, you know, if you want to go and do the wrapping, bead wrapping, or the wire wrapping around the loop, there are a lot of videos that show that. But this is just as effective for closing the eye at the other end. And then if you find that it's a little bit separated, you can still take your flat nose pliers and just give it a little bit of a squeeze to squeeze the two ends together so that they are in the hole of the last bead. And you know, everybody has a different method. This is just a method that I use. And I do use the wrapping as well when I want to make sure that it's absolutely not going to come off. But this is pretty closed, and it's the two ends, or the little end is almost sitting inside the bead, so there's no way it's going anywhere. So now I have the loop at the bottom that is going to connect to that jump ring, and I have the loop at the top, but we're going to do another set right here. So taking another eye pin. And the other thing I like to do with these eye pins, and I should have done it with that one, or at least set it, is I like to make sure that it is closed, because a lot of times when you get these, they aren't completely closed, and in which case you would just take your pliers and just squeeze it a little bit. Make sure you don't squeeze too much, or you'll close it up completely. You'll cross it over. So you just want to give it a little bit of a squeeze if it's open. In this case, it's not, but if it were open, you'd give it a little bit of a squeeze. So now this, I'm going to feed these beads onto this one. And they all fit on here very nicely, but you can see I have a much longer end here, which is why I don't like using these to make eye pins, because there's always going to be waste with depending on the size of pin you're using. And if you're going to buy these, you might as well buy the longer ones, because Otherwise, you're stuck only doing short things. So for me, that's why I don't use these pins. I will use them in a pinch, or if I want something specific, but for the most part, I don't use them for this. So I'm going to take them off of here altogether. And instead, I'm going to feed them, and I work right off the roll onto this copper wire. As you can see here. And so now and because it's on the roll, these beads can just go and just slide down there temporarily for now. Because now the only thing I have to do is take my round nose pliers and make that little loop and make it so that it touches up against the other wire to make sure it's closed. And then I do take my flat pliers and I just flatten it a little bit so that I know that there's no way a bead is going to come off of this loop. I don't have my glasses on, or my magnifier. So now that I have this loop made, I can go and gather up all these beads that are already on this roll, pull them tight against that hole or against that little loop, and bend the wire. Now you can bend it with your pliers or you can bend it with your fingers, whatever works for you. And then I'm going to hold, like the beads aren't going anywhere, but I hold them nice and tight. And I'm going to cut that wire to about 1/4 inch. It's more like 3/8, I think. You'll play around and figure this for yourself as well. So I'm holding all the beads, and you can see the wire is right here. I hope you can see it. And then taking my round nose pliers, I'm going to grab it by the end of it and just start to roll it up into that bead. And once I have it in place, I can take my flat nose pliers and just give it a gentle tighten and squish and close it up. Now here again, this is where you need to decide if you need to have both ends facing the same direction. I don't need it for this because we're just putting another batch of beads on. And nothing is directional, but just to show you how I do that, I grab both ends with my pliers and I just straighten them out so that they are both facing the same direction. And it really doesn't matter because whenever you turn the bead around, because it's not directional or need to be up and down or facing forward, it's the beads can move on the wire back and forth. It's still going to look the same. So it's kind of pointless to do for this. But now I have these on one set here, and I have the next set, and then I have the bottle cap. So the chain I'm not going to put on until afterwards. So now I have a jump ring on this one, and I could put another jump ring and connect the two together, but it doesn't make any sense because it's only going to make it further apart. So I'm just going to open that jump ring and feed this onto it. And finding the end, here we go. Now when I open the jump ring, I'm going to take my 2 sets of pliers and I'm going to rock them from front to back. Just to open them up, and they are open now. And I'm going to feed this onto here. And then taking my pliers, I'm now going to close them up. Now, this could be done, and when you close them up, you close it up the same way. And as I was telling you in one of the other videos, you know that they're closed when you're just gently pushing slightly, but rocking it back towards each other. And you can sort of feel and hear a little tiny click. And of course, depending on your eyesight, you should be able to see that it's closed as well. So this could have been done at the initial stage when I made the hole in here. If I had been prepared, I could have put my jump ring on and did this all at the same time. But because I had made this piece separately from the wannabes and now coming into the bead stage, you know, I have to open this jump ring up to put it on. Normally, I wouldn't even bother to put it on ahead of time until I'm actually going to work with it. Because one, if you don't use this, then you're wasting a jump ring. And two, it's just extra time and effort. When I make things in mass. So I could leave it just like this. It's a cute little dangle just like that. And because there's the copper and the gold in here, I don't have copper bulb pins, but I do have a gold one that's open here. So I can just feed this onto the loop. And this is ready to go just like that. So 3 little beads and this, and we've got this cute little dangle. But, you know, we're more adventurous than that. And I want to make something that's a little bit longer. So I'm going to go back now to this piece here. I could add a jump ring in here. But again, it's kind of a waste because I have a loop and then the jump ring would be another loop and then the loop here. So I'm just going to connect this loop to that loop. So in this case, I now must open this up. So taking my pliers, I'm just going to open it up just a tiny, tiny little bit. I don't know, even know if you'll be able to see that. So it's open just a tiny, tiny little bit here. Just enough to feed this bead onto here. And because we are not working in any directional situation, because the beads go in any direction, you kind of have to hold it with, you know, the third hand that you don't have. I usually let it just dangle and hold on to this part. And then taking my pliers, I'm just going to squeeze that closed again. And now I have this longer steampunky type dangle. And sometimes you have to just double check your wires to make sure that they're not too crooked. But this has got lots of movement, which is the whole point of doing these beads in sections so that you have a lot of movement. Otherwise, this would be one stiff piece and then you'd have just this dangling from the bottom. So the only thing I'm going to do onto this piece now is take a little bit of E6000 glue and a toothpick. I think I got, oh, here's my toothpick. Now, the good thing about this is you don't have to be super, super fast. And you don't have to be super, super accurate either. I'm just going to run a little bit around the edge where I know the chain is going to sit. And you don't have to do the whole thing as long as you catch both of your ends. And then just to make it easy for myself, I'm going from this side and I'm going to use my toothpick with a thread on it. And pull it. And I may have to, actually, I think I have to go back and put a little bit in that one little spot. This is not easy to, to show. I hope you'll be able to see this or zoom in a little bit. Okay. So I've added my chain onto there, that little piece of grungy chain, and I have all of this here, and I'm going to just add a bulb pin onto the top. And this piece is good to go. So that's all I'm going to get made today in this time period. So you can see how we have a lot of work ahead of us. But I'm going to continue to make some other pieces in the next part. And hopefully I can show you both parts today or today and tomorrow. So one piece is all we got made. I will try to finish up this in the next video. I think it's still pretty wet. Yeah, it's still pretty wet. So might have to wait till the next week when I'm doing the next session to show you the next stage. But that's it for this video. I hope you got something from that. And there is lots of mileage here. You can see that, you know, just working with this little bit of beads. I've even got these fairies here. Just working with these little bit of beads, how much you can create and make other dangles pretty easily. So I'm going to stop the video now and I will go on to another part. You'll either see it later today or by tomorrow. But yeah, you'll have two parts this week as we continue to work on this stuff. If you are interested in more, please tell me, because, you know, I don't want to be making these videos every week, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 a week, and you're not interested in this. So please let me know if this is something that you find fun and interesting and you want to learn more about, and then I will continue to make them. Otherwise, we will go into some other projects for the future. But that's it for today. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.